Good evening, everybody. Thank you all for coming out here. My name is Dylan Young. I am the president of the Morris Campus Student Association. Thank you for coming out to the mayor and city council debate. So here's how stuff's going to go down. 7 p.m. we're going to start with the mayor debate. We're going to ask each candidate about 5 questions. Each candidate will have 3 minutes each to respond to each question. The questions are predetermined. We wrote them and we sent them to the candidates a couple days ago. Nani, Makukuman, can't hear me back here at all? How about that? How about that? Let me start from the top. So, welcome to our mayor and city council debate. The Morris Campus Student Association welcomes you all. Thank you to the candidates for accepting the invitation to join us. Unfortunately, Brian Salvey, who's running for city council, can't join us tonight. He did accept our invitation, but some stuff came up today. Sorry about that, Brian. So here's how stuff is going to go down. We have 5 predetermined questions that we're going to ask each candidate. The candidates were given the questions in advance to prepare. Each of them get 3 minutes to respond. Other than that, there's not much to say for thank you all for coming out. I will go ahead.
My name is Nani Mekaguman, and I'm a Government Relations Officer from MCSA, as well as the moderator of today's debate. So my first question for the candidates is, why do you want to be Mayor of Morris?
So for me, when I started college, I came to Morris because I wanted to go and be a pharmacist. I started as a biochem major and playing football, doing organic chemistry, cell bio, all the labs, working 2 jobs and playing football. I couldn't necessarily do that. My freshman year, I had an intro to political science with a professor at the time who's no longer at the university, but I had enough interest at that time to when I didn't do so well in those classes to switch my majors to political science. And so after I graduated, I still had interest in political science, and it's always been a bucket list item of mine to run for local politics, because all politics start at the local level. And I knew I had the wherewithal at 22, 23 to know that I wasn't ready to run yet. So for me, it's always been a bucket list item. I'm old enough now and have had enough life experience that I feel like I would be a good representation of what the city needs at the moment. And I also want to show my children, I've got 3 young children ages 6 and under, that if you want to see change, if you want to provide change, that you have to take action.
I guess the bottom line for me, why I want to run for mayor, is Morris is my home. I came here and graduated from UMN and stayed. I've lived here and worked here for over, now I will say 30 years. Raised 5 children, 2 of them who also attended UMM. Went to high school here as well. And I have 10 grandkids that are still living here and are attending the Morris School District. So I have a vested interest in making Morris the best community that it can be.
I guess my reasons for being mayor are, I'll just reflect on some of the reasons why my wife Sherry and I selected Morris really in the first place. We selected Morris to raise our family because, number one, we thought it was a wholesome community in which to raise your family. We really liked the school system, and we felt comfortable with that. Both our families were here in Morris, so we wanted to raise our kids and be close to our family. And there was also plenty of employment opportunities. Sherry had worked at SCMC, and she was actually working there when I met her, and she's still working there, same job for almost 40 years. So, and we just thought it was a nice, wholesome community where we felt safe to raise our kids. And I just want to ensure that people that are new to Morris or young families that are moving here can select Morris for the same reasons that Sherry and I selected Morris almost 40 years ago. So.
For our next question, we would like to hear more about what you want to do. Could you possibly describe the general platform and your biggest goal as mayor?
So I think for me, I've got quite a few things that I'd like to see get accomplished as far as projects and things of that nature, right? I think that as the largest community in the county, Morris has to be an example for the surrounding communities. And we have to set in place things such as daycare and education, which are two of the biggest ones that I'd like to see changed or modified, that we can help provide support for other communities in the area. So on the topic of daycare, obviously it's no secret that there is a drastic shortage, not only here but across the state. And I know that the county's doing quite a bit with the pods, but I'd like to see the city do something with that as well. And there are quite a few individuals that are down to a single income family, and getting those individuals back into the working community will help the economics of the overall community, because when you have multiple working partners, you have disposable income. You also are helping provide jobs for daycare providers. As far as education, I looked it up today. I think that the school in town ranks somewhere in the 50s to 60s as far as out of 350 to 360 as far as best places to work and best school districts, right? And that's great. But when there is a teacher shortage in town, and one of the areas that the university very much produces a high quantity of is teachers, that's one area that I think the school should be working with the university in order to retain some of the graduating seniors in order to get them a job and keep them in the community. I think that our community has very good parks. I'd like to see and make sure that when we do park improvements that there are not only age appropriate equipment, but also equipment that is available to be used by all children with different varying levels of abilities. And I'd like to see one thing that Kevin and Kim were talking about before here was the usage of green energy that the city as a whole has done quite a bit with green energy and solar specifically, but I'd like to see the increase as well as storage and usage of green energy in the community. And I'd also like to see community involvement. I'd like to potentially set up an anonymous text and email line, as well as increase social media presence for the city. And I'd also like to see the agenda for the city council meeting posted at least 2 days before, as that's something I do not believe is currently happening.
All right, some of the goals that I would like to, as mayor and with the help of the other city council members, would, as always, continued improvements of our infrastructures. But also I'd like to create incentives and promote Morris as a destination for some smaller businesses. Sometimes we're always looking at big, huge industry and businesses, and I think small towns really need those individuals coming to our area and doing smaller businesses. And if we can create some type of incentive, I think that would be really great. I'd like to implement a program that would rehab older homes in our area, that would create quality, affordable housing for new first-time homeowners. As well as we can continue to improve all of our recreation around here by extending our bike path, our walk path, and making it so we have more of them to use, and that would include a path to the golf course. So those would just be a few of the goals I would have.
I've currently halfway through my third term as a city council representative, so over the last 10 years I got a pretty good feel for how city government works, and in some cases doesn't work. The first thing that I would like to see us do internally as city council and mayor is to improve our communications internally at all levels, really, of city government. I think we need to get better in that area, and if we can communicate better, maybe things will just run smoother and we won't miss any opportunities. We're currently working on implement a performance review policy for the city manager, and that's not to be viewed as anything negative. It is a tool that we're going to try to use to allow the city manager, the city council, and the mayor to visit about city business in a closed door setting, and we can just discuss things as it relates to city business. My three really big goals that I would like to try to accomplish, as Zach alluded to, we have what I would consider right now a daycare crisis. I was talking to members of some of the local business owners as I was going up and down Main Street, and it was very consistent theme throughout every one of them. They said we need to be able to hire people. There are help wanted signs on every door in town, and what the business owners were telling me is that they can't hire people because they're hearing that they can't find suitable daycare. Individuals want to come and work, but they have nobody to take their kids to. So that is really a crisis, because it's not only people, it affects people that are trying to work, but it also affects businesses and how they conduct and show their profits. I think we need to look at land acquisition as a city, and that's one thing we've currently talked about. We have developed industrial park that is completely developed, and I will draw on a local business that I talked to, Chandler Wilbert. They've been in business here since the 40s, and they had some expansion plans that they were planning on doing. Corporate came to the Morris location and charged the manager to try to find property to develop and build, and was told that we didn't have anything. And that was it was going to be a mega plant for them, and it would have employed about 90 some people. When I hear those types of things going on, I mean, can you imagine the economic impact of a business employing 90 new people? Restaurants, housing, schools, you name it. So those are the type of opportunities we need to embrace, and we need to have some sort of a policy where we can, an open door policy for people can come to us with their plans and expansions. And then I think we need to take a look at our city charter. We're currently running off a charter that's over 140 years old, and there are things that I think we can look at. What I'd like to do is implement a charter commission, which is made up of a group of individuals in the community that care about that, and I've already had several people come and said that they would like to be a part of that. So I think we just need to look at that and see if there's ways that we can just get better.
Thank you. Our next question is regarding the city manager. So the city manager has taken on some of the larger leadership responsibilities within the Morris model. How do you see the mayoral office fitting in?
I've got it. The city manager has taken on some of the larger leadership responsibilities within the Morris model. How do you see the mayoral office fitting in? To me, this was the one question that I struggled with the most when given these a couple days ago, and the main reason that I struggled with that the most is because I currently do not sit on city council. I've been to a couple of meetings here recently when I put in threw in my hat into the ring to run here, just to try and understand what's going on a little bit more. But that's one that I really struggled with, and to Kevin's point, you know, I think that the charter does need to be relooked at. I have read it through and I know what it says and I understand how it operates. Presently, the mayor is ceremonial. The position is ceremonial only, and you're running the meetings and you're an extra vote on council. And so for me, I'd like to see, much like Kevin, I'd like to see the charter relooked at and the mayor have more of a handle on the day-to-day. I'd also like to see the mayor having a bit more decision-making outside of the council, outside of just the meetings.
Okay, the city manager, Blaine, started working with and kind of formulated this leadership role in the Morris model. So that is where his vested interest in it, and that's why you see him there mostly. But as mayor too, I would continue to work with the city manager and be present and invested in all of the aspects of the Morris model. As a council member, I did travel with the Morris model pre-COVID to Germany and got to see all our sister city over there and what is going on, and it was very interesting, and I was very appreciative that I got to do that, as any council member has had the chance to do that. However, during the last 2 years, that kind of has been put on hold. So, but anyway, I would just continue to work and be present with the city manager in working with all aspects of the Morris model.
I'd like to just reflect for a bit and just give a shout out to some of the people that are sitting in the audience here. I see Troy Goodnell's here. I don't know if Brian Herman's here or not, but and I just want to really thank Blaine Hill for taking the lead in the sustainability arena, because he, like Kim had said, he has really pushed this thing forward. And for those of you who don't know, Morris is part of the Minnesota-Germany Climate Smart municipalities partnership, and that is a partnership that has been facilitated through the Morris model. So that's how that whole thing had started, and we have a relationship with Sauerbeck, Germany. They are our sister city, and it started out as a information sharing experience, and then it just sort of evolved into trips that Kim was fortunate enough to go on, and we did exchanges. And then just another attaboy to Troy, we have just recently, this past summer, we had 3 interns that came from Germany, and they did some very, very good work. Their names, I believe, were Michael and Thilo and Mara. But Michael did some really, I thought, really good research on our water treatment plant, and it was refreshing for me to know that at the end of his research, it just concluded that what our goals were going into that plant, having a pre-softened water plant, we actually accomplished our goals in that area, and we also reduced the chloride levels that really kind of started that whole process to begin with. So, but without Michael coming and to do that kind of work, and you know, we just don't, at the city level, don't have a lot of resources to do that kind of research. So thanks to Troy for making that happen and getting those people here, and I would like to continue that that program. And then I guess if elected mayor, I would reach out to the new mayor in Sauerbeck, which is Tobias Lieberg, and then we can just continue picking up where Blaine and Mayor Gies have left off. It's if you look now around our city, we have solar panels where there were none before, and so we're doing a lot of good things, and there's a lot of people that are responsible for that. And you know, Sid Bauer, she's doing a lot of work in the composting area and stuff. So we have a lot of people that are very green and very sustainability orientated and conservation orientated. So it's just an exciting time.
Okay. What future do you see?
Can you guys get a little bit louder?
what future do you see for Morris in 4 years? How do you plan on getting us there?
I think with some of the implementations that not only myself but Kim and Kevin have brought up tonight, if we were to attack some of these and get some of these implemented, we would see a community in 4 years that is growing and thriving. And I think that going back to some of the policies that especially need to be tackled, right? Daycare specifically will help with economic growth as well as population growth. I think between that and education, you know, when someone is looking to move to the area and there is no daycare, that's a deterring factor. I also think that strengthening of education, when you're moving to an area, that's one thing that you look at if you have children, is the school system and the school district and how they rate in relation to schools in the area. I also think that if we were to implement some beautification around the city, potentially, again, working with the college to have some of the art majors and local artists in the community, whether that be work on murals on the side of buildings, such as what and I think that community involvement, and I think that Kevin hit it on the head there, we need community involvement to improve communication. And if we were to implement some of the community involvement measures that I would like to see done, I think that would help unify the city quite a bit.
I think Morris has a lot to offer. We have our college, we have our schools, we have a hospital, we have our clinics, we have large manufacturers and small businesses, local businesses, and we have our parks. We just have a lot to offer. So just the continued improvement on these things is what I would be looking for in the next 4 years. And one way to do that, which has already been mentioned, is by the community involvement. You can only do so much when you have only so much information, but it's you, the community, that we need to hear from in order to get more people involved and to continue the growth in Morris. And one way of doing that is, I believe, creating an atmosphere for discussion. So however that looks, we just need to create that atmosphere. We need to discuss things. We need to have better communication, and so that we all can have that common goal of continued growth.
You know, my vision for Morris in 4 years, I think it would look a lot like what it is today. And I say that because I think right now have a pretty strong main street. You look at a lot of the businesses that we have, they've been there for quite some time. We do have recently added quite a few businesses on Main Street. So I think that's a big key to the success of our community, is to have a strong main street. We do have a 10-year plan as we look out for infrastructure. That is a big part of how the city, it is a big responsibility of city government, is to keep our streets and our sidewalks and our parks maintained. And we have a 10-year outlooking plan. We also have, 5 5-year short-term goals, projects we're looking at. I would like to see a wraparound to our bike path. We currently have sort of a dead end, and I know there was an initiative by the county at one point was going to try to continue that out to the golf course and then kind of come out by the West Central Experiment Station there. I think it would be a very nice asset and to have that expanded so everybody could just kind of make a loop and enjoy, I think one of our most underused assets in our town is right across the street from where I live, the Gloria Music Hall. At one time we hosted Prairie Pioneer Days there, and at least once a year it was pretty vibrant. But now, since we moved Prairie Pioneer Days to a different location, there's just not a lot that goes on at the Gloria Music Hall, and I think it's an underused have weekend festivals, whatever, just an opportunity for people to come, get out and gather informally. How do I plan to get us there? I think the key really is, as any leader, you need to listen. Because it's not really what I want that's important, it's what really all of you want. And I think a leader, a mayor, has to be approachable. And if you can create an environment where people feel comfortable talking to you and know that they have confidence in your ability to get things done, that's where it's really all going to start. And that's how we can continue to grow and have the kind of community that we're all proud of.
Each other. It is bigger than we think, and there are a lot of diverse interests in town. How will you bridge the gaps between different interests, groups, and visions and still make a positive change in Morris?
I think that the way to bridge the gap between all these different groups and interests and visions is something that the three of us have been saying the whole night, and that's communication. And I think that one of the ways to do that is to get people involved, whether that be community cleanup days, community events and festivals, right? The more that you get people to buy in, the more they're going to take ownership of the community and of the events that are happening. And I think that that we should encourage leaders of whatever group it may be, whether it's the university or come and speak specifically to the council. That's something that that I'd like to encourage and foster a safe space there. On top of that, I think that we want council to be a place where people come in order to voice ideas, not just, hey, we didn't shovel the sidewalk, right? We need more community involvement, not just negativity. Come with ideas and positivity, and doesn't necessarily tell you what to do or how to do it. They just invite you along for the ride, and that's what I'm doing tonight.
All right, I think good leaders are able to blend the ideas of diverse populations. And in order to do this, there needs to be dialogue. And we need to listen to understand other people's viewpoints, then create an atmosphere for that communication where everyone's interests can be discussed, input given, and visions realized. This will help make positive changes in Morris if we all just work together and listen to others' viewpoints.
We currently, as city council representatives and mayor, are responsible for different boards upon when we got elected. I have been fortunate enough to be on the chamber board, and I also sit on the tourism board. Two very important boards in my opinion, not that the other ones aren't. But when you look at those two boards, the chamber in particular and the tourism board, it's made up of people from all different businesses in the community. So we got a really good cross-reference, a good representation of all the different areas within our town. And it's really kind of exciting, and you get their perspective. They can communicate what's going on in their business. So I think, you know, I'm just really thankful that I sit on that board, because it helps me keep aware of what's going on within the chamber and how we can help the different businesses try to grow in Morris. And with tourism, we have done I think made a lot of progress with regards to marketing Morris. We hired a marketing firm, and we've had input from all the different various tourism board members. So what we're going to try to do is, if there's an event in town, we just now today actually went online with an application process, and hopefully it's going to be streamlined so people can, if they have an event coming up, they can apply for marketing assistance through tourism funds. So that is that's going to help fulfill some of those people's visions. You know, if they had, we just recently had the Metal Arts Festival, and we were fortunate enough to provide marketing assistance to help make that event go. So that's where really you start bridging things, when you can see events that succeed and people are coming to our community and checking us out. So, and I guess I would also like to encourage informal town hall type meeting settings where we have maybe local businesses, give them an opportunity, some of our educators, pastoral leaders, etc. Just get together and talk about what's going on and how our community's doing, and I just think that'd be a real benefit.
And that is it. If you have any questions, just shout them at the candidates.
Hi.
Or come up here.
One thing that I want to bring up that came to my attention today was the University of Minnesota Board Regent Steve Sviggum had some very disparaging remarks concerning diversity here in Morris. He may as well have just tattooed the whole town with the words, "Do not come here." I took offense at that, and I just hope and pray that our candidates as well as our community realizes one person is not going to bring this community down. We can all work together to build our community up. I am a small business owner here, and I have been a small business owner for 4 years. I am a resident here of 9 years. My husband grew up here for many years. And I want to know from our mayor candidates first, if you want to take it one at a time, what do you plan on doing about that comment regarding diversity here in Morris, and how will you improve diversity amongst our community?
You know, Diane, very good question. Like you, quite honestly, I was shocked when I seen that. As a graduate of UMM myself, I think our diversity is what makes this campus a great place to study. The bigger question for the vice chair is, I think he was right in raising and sounding the alarm with regards to the enrollment decline. My biggest question to the chair would be what took you so long? I mean, the enrollment out at campus has been slowly declining over the last decade. And for it to get to this point where we're down almost 50%, we're down about 47%. You think about that for just a minute. That's half as many students as we had, when I graduated, I know we had a class of over 2,000. So we have half as many students in our town, shopping in our town, going to the bars and the various restaurants. So I think he was right in sounding the alarm. I certainly wouldn't have worded it the way he did, because I look at the statistics of what our campus is made up of right now, and I just pulled these statistics off of the website, and we're 54% white, 32% American Indian, 4% black, 4% Hispanic, 2% Asian, and 3% international. So I don't know where he's coming from with regards to the diversity issue. I just think he chose a very poor way to bring this to light. So I guess, I know he had mentioned he was probably going to be making a trip out here to Morris, and I would certainly like to be there when he comes and have a conversation with the Vice Chair, Svega.
Okay, back to the question again was, what am I going to do to keep to what? I'm sorry.
What will you do to promote continued diversity in this town? How will you attract more people so that we're not just a good old white boy club here? Because as a small business, I have a lot of the college kids that come into my pet store. I welcome them all. I'm like their mom, they're homesick, they're lonely, they love to look at the animals. I don't care if they're black, white, polka dotted, I don't care if they're transgendered, mixed gendered, gay, straight, whatever. Come to my store. This is a happy place. Morris is a happy town. What are you gonna do to make sure it stays that way?
So just repeating the question for everyone in the back who might not have been able to hear, the question is, what are the candidates going to do to ensure that the diversity which characterizes Morris continues and thrives?
I think that diversity brings diversity. So that is one person who doesn't live here making a comment that was totally inaccurate, and just making a comment for whatever reason he made the comment. It was inappropriate and not. So if we take that, and like I said, diversity brings diversity, and I think Autumn mentioned too that as a student she came and heard this rift between the town and the college, and I think if you've lived here for a while you realize that how many people sitting up here came to college here and still live in this community. That shows you right there that it's somebody else's perspective of what's here in Morris. Now we can make a big to-do of it and ask him to come to the community, recall, make a statement in the paper, but I think again, diversity brings diversity, and we're all living here and we all understand that, and we're all just fine. Like you said, you welcome everyone to come into your store, and I truly believe that the majority of the citizens in Morris feel that way too, and we're just going to continue to be our welcoming selves.
So his comments came to my attention on Monday, and I kind of scratched my head, not necessarily understanding what he's trying to accomplish. I think that one of the positive things about this community is how diverse it is, specifically with the college, and I think that much to Kevin's point, I think that he's trying to attack lower enrollment in the wrong place. Now, I may be way off base, but I also believe that overall collegiate enrollment is down. So I'm not sure where he's getting diversity as his center point, as his focal point. And if I recall correctly, I saw a snippet from the hearing today where he made some comment that he's 72 and he wouldn't necessarily make these same comments when he's 54. So I'm not necessarily saying that age is playing a part of that, but I also don't think that he necessarily understands what the college is about and what we're for here with the college. And I really appreciate the letter that, and I believe it's an open letter that Dylan wrote to the Vice Chancellor, and I support it 100%. I think that he needs to make another visit, if not multiple, to completely understand the culture of what's going on here, because I think that the college as a whole does have a very, very good culture, a very safe culture, and a very positive culture.
So, thank you, Diane, for bringing this up. I was not only disappointed when I heard this, I was actually very angry. As a person of color, I often don't get to forget that I am a person of color. One of my favorite questions people like to ask is, what are you? And that's what I thought of when I heard him make this comment. To me, I thought, what does he mean by too diverse? What does he mean when he's questioning is Morris too diverse? Is he encouraging that we promote more actively don't accept people of color to our campus? Is he asking that we actively promote for more white students to come to our campus? I think Morris has a perfect level of diversity, and I feel very welcome and safe and secure in our community due to our diversity. As a person of color, I often am told that I'm only in a place because I am a person of color. That affirmative action gave me the spot that I have because I'm a person of action. And when I hear that he made the comment that friends of his said their children did not come to Morris because they feel uncomfortable due to that diversity, I wonder then, why are people of color making his friends' children uncomfortable? People of color have always been told that we are making people uncomfortable. We're told that we can't make things race issues because that will make people uncomfortable. And now we're being told that simply by being people of color, going to a university, his friends' children would feel uncomfortable going to school. So to the question of what can we do to actively promote and encourage that people continue to come to Morris despite this comment made, I think the president of the region board who released a statement made a really good statement. He is actually hosting the next Regency meeting in March 2023 at the Morris campus. He is actively promoting and encouraging people to come, and I think it's very big of him to step up and say, you made this comment, we need to make this better, and we need to come to Morris and actively view this campus and address the retention issue. It's not a diversity problem. It's a low retention, it's a low enrollment issue, and I think Zach was correct in that it is not just Morris, it is everywhere. And I think it's very unfair to blame it on diversity. So I really look forward to next March when the regents do come to Morris. I'm excited to hear their ideas. I'm excited to communicate with them and share ideas about how we continue to make Morris a star in the U of M system. We are leading in sustainability, and I wish he had mentioned that. That would have been a great way to bring students. We have an amazing environmental science program. We are a leader in our state for sustainability. And I think that's a pinnacle reason to come to Morris. It's a reason a lot of people, we have a large science group, a lot of people in STEM. We have an amazing curriculum at Morris. People should come to Morris for that. We shouldn't be afraid to come to Morris because of diversity. So I thank you again for bringing that to light, and I thank Dylan again for also making that a public, because it was really hidden inside that Regency meeting, and I still shake my head and scratch my head and puzzle on what could he possibly mean by that still.
I guess I'm pretty proud too when I saw the numbers, and I saw it on TV this morning when we were 54% white, and I'm looking at the next three between the Indian, the Black, and Hispanic at 42 as almost half of the population. I'm pretty proud of that for our little town, little community out here in West Central Minnesota. But as we've all talked about, enrollment is declining constantly. We're down to 1,200. The online ed, but trying to figure out why to throw this at it just doesn't make any sense. But I think as long as we're all welcoming to everybody in our community, regardless of what we look like or what our thoughts are, if we believe in God or if we don't believe in God, if we decide, what sexual orientation we decide to be, it really shouldn't matter. Come in, be welcoming to our whole community, and be part of Morris.
I might be all wrong, but I feel an undercurrent from the council members that there's a communication issue between the council and the city manager. So I'd like you all, five of you, to talk about that. Maybe maybe it's not a true statement, but that's what I'm sensing. What would you do as mayor or as city council people to correct or to improve communication if there is a lack of communication between the council and the city manager, given the fact that the city manager often quotes the charter as being a reason why there's going to be less participation by city council members, even though we're paying them to provide input into the governance of Morris. What do you see your role as a city council in addressing issues that you think are important that the city manager may not?
Did everyone hear in the back? No. He's asking about communication with the city manager from the candidates.
So I obviously have not been on the city council, so that's something that I will have to learn about. What is the current level of communication? How currently is the power and decision-making power divided among the council members, the city manager, and the mayor? I think it's important that we reevaluate. Our charter is outdated. We need to look at that again and address how is that relevant to our current day and time and current societal and economic state. Obviously 100 years ago, we were a very different town. We, as a group of people, as a society, were very different. So if elected to city council, of course, I have a lot to learn, but I think when you relearn things, when you learn things from the beginning, it opens up new possibilities. It opens up new options that we might not have been aware of before. So I really want to have good active communication about, is this something that someone decided and as city council members we're just nodding our heads and saying yes? Or is this a discussion we had together, a group decision that we decided for as what would be best for the entire community?
The city manager's job is to run the city of Morris on a day-to-day operation. As a council, when we meet for our council meetings twice a month, he collects the information and brings it to us, and we vote either to move forward with it or to not to proceed with it. And we've had some discussion amongst the council and the current mayor on having more work sessions where we can sit and discuss more things with the city manager to get more input into what's going to happen with the city. So we're working on it. Our city manager has a military background. He's very set in his ways, and it's when you deal with him, but I grew up next to Blaine all my life. I mean, we lived across the alley from him growing up. He's just very forward, and here's how it's going to be, concrete, but I think it's just the military background that he's had that some people just feel like he's ramming it down your throat, but I don't get it, or I don't take it that way. But we've discussed it on getting more work sessions to discuss things, to have more involvement from the council and the mayor as we proceed with things for the city.
First of all, thank you for that question. There is a lot of moving parts to city government. Our form of city government gives the city manager, according to our charter, a lot of power. And I guess what I would say is this, too much is given, much is required. And he has a lot of authority, the city manager position, but I think at times that authority gets overextended. Now our city charter states, and one of the things that really came to light for me in this with regards to communication is this whole disbanding of the Morris Police Department situation brought a lot of things to light for me, because we have employees that were told by their city manager that they could not come and speak to a city council representative for possibly getting terminated for having that type of a conversation with sitting city council members. And I brought that up in one of our meetings, and Aaron and Jordan backed City Manager Hill up on that end and said that City Manager Hill is working well within his power of city manager to handle his departments as he sees fit. Now, I would argue that just because our charter says you can do something isn't really a best practice. If I was running a business and I had a policy like that where my employees did not feel comfortable coming and talking to me about a problem, how long do you think I would be in business? I would be having employees walking out the door in droves. So we really need to take a look at that charter, reevaluate how the city manager conducts and works with his various departments. One step we are taking right now, and I shared with you this earlier, is the performance evaluation process that we're going to try to implement here very soon. Kim and I have been working on that along with City Manager Hill, and he has been very receptive to that too, by the way, because Blaine has communicated to every one of us, and I've heard it from his mouth several times. He really has, his biggest challenge as a city manager is how can he communicate better with the city council? Because in a meeting setting, it's very difficult. So what the performance evaluation process would allow all of us to do is to sit down in a closed door meeting session and have that conversation with the city manager while evaluating his performance in all the various levels of city government. Because again, there are a lot of moving parts, but we need to facilitate feedback from all the departments. And one of the things that we used to do, that we don't do anymore, department heads were always welcome to come to city council meetings when I first started. That went away. And I was always kind of wondering why department heads stopped coming. Well, so I went out and I talked to some of those department heads. I said, why are you not coming to meetings anymore? And they said, we were told not to come by our city manager. And I was just taken aback by that. I thought, what do you mean you weren't allowed to come? Well, I really didn't. The answer that I got is he was afraid that somebody would put that person on the spot and maybe they would answer it in a way that he didn't feel comfortable with. So, I don't know, we just need to open up those lines of communication between city council, the mayor, and the city manager, because quite honestly, if you don't communicate right, things just aren't going to go well, and they're not going to end well, just like what we've seen with our police department, because by the time that fell on our lap, I want you all to know, and I think most of you know, I was very upset about that, because I've lived in Morris my entire life. I grew up with men in blue. They were some of my best friends as a kid growing up. They provided guidance and leadership to a young kid. And I think the real losers out of this whole police department thing, and I don't want to get off on a tangent, is our children. Because we currently, I know Jason and his staff they're gonna do a great job. I have confidence in that end. But there are some basic services that we used to provide that are no longer gonna be there. We used to have a DARE program. We used to have a school resource officer up at our schools. And when we signed a contract with the county, we, Jeff, I, all the city council representatives, we relinquished our input to how law enforcement goes going forward. So if there's something that we want to see, you're going to have to talk to Sheriff Dingman. You can't come and talk to us about it because we no longer have any input and control over local law enforcement. So I'm just using that as an example. I'm not here to bash and make these people that are sitting here feel bad for their decision. I think they made the decision they did. As you know, I was the one that voted to keep the police department, but I don't want to look backwards. We need to look forwards. Jason and his staff will do fine, but we just need to do a better job at communicating.
I'm going to address the communication. When I was speaking about communication wasn't necessarily so much because the questions were asked about how do you communicate discussions between different groups and more communication that way. So that's where my communication was. How do you as citizens communicate with the council? And I know I heard that that sometimes we're not a welcoming group. Okay. That's fine. Those are all the communication things that we need to hear, though, that I need to hear as a council member and as a mayor, is what can we do to make you feel more welcoming? And that's the communication that I was trying to speak of, not necessarily between the council and our city manager. But as always, there's always in any place you go, that's where might be some needed help too, but my communication was more between the council members, the mayor, and the citizens of Morris. What are you looking for? I'm out and about a lot in Morris, and I very seldom have people ask me questions about the city council like we're doing now. So, or what are you looking at, or what can we do, or here's what I think. We do all have an email. That's very seldom do I get emails from people. So those are the communication things I'm working at trying to get, is how do we get you as the citizens to tell us what we need, what you would like to see, or what your vision is, or hey, I was looking at, have you guys ever thought of this? So that's a communication I was referencing mostly in my answers.
Much like Autumn, I'm not currently sitting on city council, so for me there will be a learning period. Now with that being said, there's a couple of my coworkers here tonight that can attest that I typically am an over communicator when it comes to work related items. So I'm not necessarily too concerned with my ability to communicate. That being said, I would like to, I think, was it you, Kevin, or you, Jeff, that brought up the city manager review, right? I'd like to see what that looks like, and I'd like to dig more into that. I'd also like to say that once a year might not necessarily be enough. I understand that it ends up becoming a paper pushing process, and nobody wants that. But at the same point, you need to have annual reviews. You also need to have, whether it's quarterly or twice a year or whatever, you need to have that line of communication open. And hearing that department heads were discouraged from coming to council meetings is very, very frustrating, and it's disheartening. And I'd like to encourage that to not only department heads to come to council meetings and to approach council members on the outside of meetings, but additional city workers and people in city government, because their direct line to the council is through the city manager. There's the potential for it to get lost right there. And I'm not saying that that's happening currently, but I'd like to have other avenues available for people if they feel that they need to have their voice heard, to get their voice heard.
This is just for Mr. Miller. And the final question, hang on, I have notes. It was the bridging gap between different interest groups, right? I didn't understand what your answer was, because I felt like a lot of what you were saying is what is currently being done, and I don't know what you're doing for it and what you will be doing if you get reelected.
She's asking what you want to do. If for the people in the back, she's asking what Miller is going to do as a city council candidate.
Well, I guess me, as well as the whole city council, is the communication with the different groups. I have matured and grown a lot in the 62 years I've been alive. Yeah, I was pretty set in my ways, but after sitting on the Human Rights Commission and getting through some different things there, I have pulled my horns in some and have grown up some, and have been much more inclusive with family members that are dating people of black race, different minorities. But having 7 sisters, yeah, I've come to be involved with a lot of other family members that have other issues, or my younger nieces and nephews that see things a total 180 than how I see it. So yeah, I'm maturing and growing as I grow with family members and the people in the community. I guess just trying to work with everybody and to be inclusive. Thank you. Anyone else? Or is that, I hate to hog all the time.
I think I can project. I teach at the college, so I guess I should say this is much a comment as it is a question. This is something academics say a lot. I do want to think, I think this is remarkable that we had this great turnout. This is how you make change. You get involved. My question for the candidate is going to be out of left field. Morris just recently celebrated 150 years. What is one thing you can do in your term to help guarantee that we will be here for our bicentennial?
So how do we have another 150 years? I think we need to continue to promote our campus. As already discussed, we've had a bad light upon us recently questioning if we're too diverse. And I think we need to continue promoting all the highlights of our campus, our astounding curriculum, how wonderful our diversity is. We have some big industries in town. We need to continue supporting these industries. Of course, that comes hand in hand with the low employment in town. And I think that all rolls together, the low enrollment in Morris, the low employment rate in Morris, keeping our large industries going. We need to continue to find a way to make Morris welcoming, inviting. How do we get our students to want to stay in Morris? As previously mentioned, many members up here have been UMM graduates. I 2 years ago was a graduate, and now here I am living in Morris. How do we get more people to stay in Morris? Because I know a lot of the time when I tell people I'm no longer a student, I'm graduated, and I'm living in Morris, I've had people thank me for staying in Morris because they've had so many people they know leave Morris. How do we continue making this a wonderful place for everyone to live? How do we get people to want to be homeowners in Morris, to make this their lifelong home? I think that is the key to having another successful 150 years forward.
Well, we need to continue looking forward, but also from our past, that we need to continue to change and yes, be inclusive of the college, but the business, all the different nationalities, bringing everyone together to work as a team, regardless of our beliefs, you know, to support our community, if it's the businesses uptown, the university, the schools, you know, we need to work together, stick together, and be a community. Just draw on our strengths that we have from within.
I shared with you earlier that I sit on the tourism board, and I think one of the benefits of that and some of the progress that we've made is we're making people aware of Morris. We're getting the word out there when we have events to try to attract people to come to our city. You know, on the short term, they come for different events. But what that does, and we can pull them people in, it's tourism's responsibility to get people here, and the local Chamber of Commerce works to try to keep people here. So if we can get people here, they may come, and it may start out as just a visit, maybe because there was an event that they came to. And you just never know. They may look at that and they think, wow, this is a pretty cool little town. You know, and you never know. They might decide to make Morris their home. I guess I would put this out to you, Wes. I mean, we all came here for various reasons. Some, you know, we have a very stable economy, local economy. We have a lot of government employment here. So if you look at Morris from a economic stability standpoint, we have a lot of, like I said, a lot of government employment, which also makes a very solid base economically. We have a lot of private sector employment. We have Superior Industries, Westmore. There's just a lot of opportunities for people there. I think if we can continue to work keeping Morris a safe place to raise their kids, whether it's the Morris Police Department or whether we have a Sheriff's Department, that is a huge thing. I don't know how many people, the different people I talked to, young families that came to Morris, they chose Morris because it was a good, safe place to raise their kids. And if we can continue to keep our citizens safe, we have an aging population in this city. We do need to get and attract new businesses. So we're all getting older. You know, I'm getting older, and you know, every one of us sitting in this room, we're gonna wanna retire someday. I'm already there, but somebody's gonna have to pay our Social Security and keep us going. So we need to attract young families. So I think if we can do those things, I'd like to see another 150 years, but I don't know if I'll make it. But anyway, I think that's a good start.
I think we get to the next 150 years by continuing to forge forward with where we are at now going forward. I mean, I look around the room and I see a lot of people that I've seen ever since I've lived here, but I also see a lot of new faces. And that comes from our colleges, that comes from our businesses, our industries bringing in people. So I think we just have to continue to appreciate everyone who comes to our community, because we do have a lot of wonderful things going on here. And just, again, just embracing the diversity of people that here. It may be others from out of our county that say things, but in our community, we know better than that. So, and encouraging our young people to get involved, encouraging all of us to get involved. If you see something you want, hey, let's talk about it. So I see that as how we get to our next bicentennial.
I think that some of the biggest challenges that Morris faces is potential growth opportunity. And there's a number of different things that will hamper any further potential growth. Obviously, we beat the daycare thing to death, so we're We're gonna leave that one be for the moment. I think industry and new industry is another one that needs to be addressed, whether that be in an industrial park. The further west you go, there's central hubs, whether that be Watertown or Sioux Falls or Fargo from north to south, right? So that would be another potential option for Morris, would be to start to be a hub. Obviously, we are a college town, so potentially bringing in something, whether that's a large box store or something along those lines, that would have to be something that we would have to look at. It's not something you necessarily want to do with the amount of small business that we have, but it's something that you might potentially have to. I'd like to see a further growth in small business and companies that focus that way, but you have to keep your options open as well.
You can go first. Oh. Okay, mine's quick. I heard you speak about contacting through email. I didn't know that was an option. So if I could get like a form of contact in case I have further questions, how would I contact you guys?
You go on the city website under council, it lists all of our names and emails.
And phone numbers.
And phone numbers, and when our term is up.
I think that'd be a good question for everybody.
So thank you for asking that, because probably should have clarified that.
Yeah.
Okay.
And it's normally posted in the Morris paper occasionally too, just inside that it's normally listed for contact for all of us.
And does that function for those who aren't currently on the council?
So let me give you my email. If you or anybody else wants to directly email me any questions, I'd be happy to reply. It's Autumn C. Johnson, AUTUMNCJOHNSON, numbers 16@gmail.com.
Are there any capitals?
Nope, all lowercase.
Alright,
You can keep it, I can show.
Okay.
Like Autumn, my email is KROEL007, and that's @gmail.
thank you. I think she had a question too.
Just stand up.
How it works. Make
So-
sure to project. Make sure they can hear you.
So, if there's like a lot of like stray cats out, like, I don't know, like how would you like want to do to like fix that kind of, or like, I don't know, like.
No,
yeah,
that is a legitimate issue, because one or two stray cats, if they're unfixed, leads to a few dozen more stray cats. And I think Diane might have brought this up on one of the public Facebook pages, that this is a concern. You know, our shelter is full of cats. People always want kittens, they don't want adult cats, and now our shelter can't accept any more of the stray cats. So I think that is a good issue that needs to be addressed. How are we able to address all these stray cats? Are they cats that someone owns and they are outdoor cats? Is there a way that we can track them and so we know whether or not this cat has an owner? Or can we set up a program in order to spay and neuter so we can ensure that one or two cats doesn't become a few more dozen cats? I think that's a really good point to address, and I think that's something that we need to look at further options, working with the local vet clinic and the local shelter to see if we can help sponsor or create a teamwork method to be able to address that problem.
I believe if you call the police department, they will attempt to get a stray cat, stray dog, and take it out to the shelter for somebody to claim it, and if not, it proceeds to what happens after that. But yes, contact the local Morris Police Department, Sheriff's Department, and they will deal with it.
Well, I guess I wish I shared your optimism, Jeff, but you know, that is some of the things that still need to be written, really, with regards to what your question really relates to is some of the local city ordinance type things that we had. Because I say had, because those city ordinance type things, you brought up cats. You know, my question, and I don't really have a good answer for you, is now who, you know, we have an ordinance against tall lawns. You know, your neighbor doesn't mow his lawn and they don't shovel their sidewalk. You know, when somebody asked me before, you know, what is the answer? Who's going to take care of this? If I was to answer that question today, I'm not sure I can tell you to call the sheriff's department that they and have full confidence that they will do it. Because it's kind of really up to Sheriff Dingman which types of ordinances he's going to police. They have, as a county, they have an awful big area to cover. And I know they hired you know, several new officers, and their commitment is to take care and police, pick up the policing responsibility for our community. But some of those, I don't know if you want to call them smaller ordinances or smaller problems, are those types of things going to get handled? That would be a question we really should, and as we go into this transition, as we move through this transition, those types of things will get established. So I guess what I would like to encourage everyone in the audience right now is just have a little patience with how this thing is going. Things may not just click and they may not happen as fast as you would like, because Jason is learning as he's going too. But again, like Autumn said, and I think everybody at this table feels fully confident that Jason and his department will do well. But very good question, thank you.
And dealing with any type of issue that maybe we don't have an ordinance for, or maybe we do and we're just not following it. Again, we just need to get people together, we need to have dialogue, we need to listen, we need to come up with what are we gonna do when there's a situation and a problem. We need to get the right people on the table to figure that out as well. At the table, not on the table. We'll get them at the table. It's getting kind of late, people.
Thank you for your question. I was not expecting or prepared to answer a question about cats this evening, so thank you. I graduated with a degree in political science, but I do have a minor in biology, so I can tell you that cats wreak havoc on ecosystems on a microscopic scale. So I think that basically everyone else has addressed most of what my comments were. Right, we need to on a local level look at ordinances that are in place and how they are policed and enforced. We also need to have communication between not only the sheriff's department, but the city council and the citizens, because that's the most important one there. And then we also needed to get community buy-in, again, like Autumn said, whether that be working with the shelter to promote adoption days or spade and neutering events, things of that nature.
One more.
So we only have time for one more question.
You got one.
You're good? I'm down. Good. So earlier tonight, there was somebody that mentioned that wages needed to be discussed, and I'm curious from each of you if you really think that that's something that the government really should be involved with, and why.
I don't necessarily think that is government's place to decide a dollar amount. I don't think that's necessarily city council's place to be telling local business owners, you should be paying this amount. I think you're correct in that aspect. I meant it more as an intention that that's something that should be discussed on a citywide level. It should be discussed, is this what's preventing people from applying at certain places? Is that really the thing that's stopping businesses from being able to have enough employees? So I think it's a discussion that city council can help facilitate, but isn't necessarily city council's position to be able to make a solid decision for business owners in Morris.
I do not believe it's city's business to get into determining wages other than a city-owned business per se, the liquor store, the library, the different jobs of that type. But if you don't like what the wages are, hopefully better yourself, find a different job. But I don't think the city should get involved in trying to determine what somebody's going to pay a wage. It's just, I think the bit more government we have, the worse off we are, is just my feeling. The less government, the better for all of us.
You know, as a former business owner, I can tell you that government has no place in the private sector businesses. It's really going to have to, that responsibility has to come on each individual business as to how profitable they can be. Yeah, would it be nice to pay everybody $50 an hour, but you can't. You know, you got to look at the bottom line, and we just can't have government dictating to a local business and what, you know, they should pay their employees. You're just going to have to let the market and the competition between businesses kind of play out on that. So that's my thoughts.
Only the council should be involved in wages for city employees. That would be it. And then we would really need to look at those as we are for some right now. Otherwise, businesses are their own private industry and they need to look at what's best for their business and what they can handle and what they can afford to pay.
I'm in agreement with basically everything that everyone said here, right? The city government can work with government offices and that should be what they should be focused on as far as salaries and such go there. But as soon as you venture into the private sector, that's the starting wage is dictated by the state and federal, and then after that, it's on the individual business.
So then if I may, as a follow-up to that, obviously there's been a lot of talk about change, communication I've heard 1,000 times. Haven't heard anything about accountability, none of this from leaders or future leaders. But if you have all this change that you want, and wages got brought up, I mean, I feel like we're just circling around. I haven't really heard anything about what rubber's gonna hit the road, right? So, I don't know, I guess it's something for you guys to think about, or it's something as me as a voter to think about. So I don't feel like I got an answer.
Can I answer this as a small business owner?
No, I'm a small business owner too. I'm not looking for your input. I'm not voting for you. Okay, I'm voting for them.
But just to let you know, some of our small businesses cannot afford what
I am a small business owner.
Understandable, but some of us cannot afford the level these kids want.
I understand, but that's what I'm saying.
I would like to have a conversation with you after the debate. I think they're trying to finish up because I think it was supposed to end a few minutes ago. But I'd be really happy to sit down and have a conversation with you on what actions you would like to see. I know we've hit a lot of those highlight big green flag words a lot that everybody wants to hear. The communication, change, we're going to take action. But I agree. We haven't had a plan in place. What exactly are we going to do? And I think that's what when I think about a communication, that's what I need. I want to have a sit down with local business owners. I want to have a sit down with involved, concerned citizens on what we can do. So I would love to discuss this further with you right now if you have some time.
All right, so we have about 4 minutes left in the debate. Just as a little reminder for everybody, I want to ask the candidates to give their name and in 1 or 2 sentences what you're running for and why you're running. Just as a reminder to everybody.
My name's Autumn Johnson. I'm running for City Council, and I'm running to help represent some of the more quiet voices in our community. I've worked with vulnerable adults, victims of crime. I've been a college student, and I'm now a resident of this town, so I think I'm a good representative of a lot of diverse communities in Morris.
Jeff Miller, running for City Council. I've been on the council since 2005. I think we have a lot of things to accomplish yet on working with some of our green energy to keep working to get solar on our water treatment plant, our sewage ponds, keep developing things in town for the daycare and the housing projects, and just working in the community to build a stronger community for everyone. Thank you.
Again, my name is Kevin Wohlers. I am halfway through my 3rd term. I've got just a tick over 10 years of experience on the council. I'm very familiar with how city government works from over those past 10 years. strong communities require strong leadership. And I will provide that leadership if elected your mayor. Sometimes you have to make tough decisions. But I think the biggest quality that the office of mayor can bring to the people in Morris is to be approachable. And I want everybody out there to know that if I was elected your mayor, you can feel comfortable coming and talk to me, because again, it's not about me and what I want, it's about what you want. Thank you.
I'm Gullickson, and I'm running for the office of mayor. And I just want to stress again that my position here is to get more people involved, more involvement from our community members. And in doing that, then we all take pride in our community and we'll push it forward.
I'm Zach Kroells, and I am also running for mayor. And for me, I'm running because I want to see some change in certain areas, and I'm willing to put in the work and effort in order to see that change accomplished.
How about we get a round of applause for our candidates real quick? Thank you all so much for making it here tonight. Thank you to everybody in the audience. Thank you, Noel, for recording the event. We're going to post this out on YouTube by tomorrow. So if you have any friends who couldn't make it tonight, let them know that they'll be able to find the recording online of the video of the debate. Have a good night, everybody.
Thanks, Dylan.